So moving on now to the final team, and kind of similar to Lotus, won't be too much to talk about as Red Bull was only able to complete 21 laps for the whole 4 days. Is that correct? Yep, 21 laps for the whole 4 days. I mean, it's certainly not off to a good. This can't be the start that Red Bull wanted. They got the smiling Daniel Ricciardo on TV saying everything's fine and dandy, but there must be a little bit of a panic going on there.
I think panic is probably the wrong word. I don't think they'll be back at base running around like headless chickens. I don't think they'll be panicking as such. But
what do we do?
Yeah, but it's definitely not good. If they started with a performance advantage, if they started to half a second quicker than everyone else, for example, I don't think they did. But if say they did, they now won't be half a second quicker than anyone else because Mercedes will now go back to base, make a few reliability tweaks that they will have noticed, but nothing big, and then just go right. Set up, performance, aerodynamics, downforce, all that sort of good stuff. Whereas Red Bull are just going to spend the next sort of 3 weeks going, right, we need to fix all of these issues and then hope it's fixed. Yeah, they will do a bit of performance. Obviously, they're a big team. They're not just going to, all the resources won't go one thing. But it's definitely not what Adrian knew he wanted to be scratching his head over in the next 3 weeks.
No. I'm sure he wanted data.
The point of this early test is for this sort of issue. So, don't expect them to be not finishing the first 4 races. They're going to finish probably most races, just like they did last year. But it will just put them behind the performance curve. I don't think it's really going to affect their reliability realistically. They've got long enough. They've got 2 months, which with a team like Red Bull with like 250 million, I think that's dollars, a year budget, they're not realistically going to struggle too much as some people would like to think they are.
They may be,
but it's definitely not ideal, particularly for Ricciardo as well. Of course, not being able to get the laps together, and Vettel as well. Both not being able to get used to the new engine here as much. I mean, 11 laps for Vettel and 10 laps for Ricciardo. It's definitely not good for either driver, not being able to get used to new engines properly on track.
Now, one thing that kind of interests me, or intrigues me, I should say, is the fact that Daniel Ricciardo has been driving the past few years in a dog of a car, or not necessarily a dog of a car, but you see what I'm saying. Like, Daniel Ricciardo is used to the struggle of F1, whereas for the last 4 years, Sebastian Vettel has been enjoying, this relatively easy ride in these godlike cars designed by, the best designer on the planet. So I wonder if Daniel Ricciardo maybe is going to be better at handling this type of situation.
No, I don't think. Even if they were firmly midfield, they had a McLaren style year, which is very, very unlikely. I still think Vettel will be better initially, at least. Eventually Ricciardo, for we know, could even beat Vettel. I do rate Ricciardo, not as high as Vettel because I don't hugely rate Vettel, not up there with most of them, but. He is definitely a solid driver. There's no doubt in that. 4 championships, you can't win that, if you're not a really good driver. But, Ricciardo could eventually be up with him, but I don't think it'll make a difference. Just the fact that Ricciardo's had slower cars, I think, it's, at the end of the day, you've still got 2 pedals and you've still got a steering wheel in your hand. It's not, just because where you are in the field, it doesn't really make a difference. Vettel can control the car like the best of them. He can, he knows what to do with understeer, he knows what to do with oversteer. So I don't think that really matter. I don't think that'll tilt the balance either way.
I just think sometimes maybe that he's gotten too accustomed to it. And I think it's possible. It's possible. I think it's very likely that you're right, but I think it's possible that if things start taking a downward turn, even just at the slightest of downward turns for the team, he might react poorly to that kind of thing.
I do think Vettel is a bit of a Massa, more of a Massa of old, really. Recently, obviously, it's been hard to tell, but in that Massa tends to, if he's out the front, he is very quick and he's so hard to beat. He proved that in, say, 2008. When he's at the front, he's probably going to win. But when he's in 4th, 5th, he just loses that motivation. He just doesn't push. He just can't seem to muster together that die-hard attitude of, right, I'm going to battle my way and I'm going to win this race. He just can't do that. Vettel is like that, not to as much extent as Massa. For me, Vettel is a bit like that. He loves being out the front, but when he's further back, maybe not so much. And I'm sure people will say Abu Dhabi, was it 2012 when he started from the back and blah 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 blah. But for me, he was almost gifted that because there was 2 safety cars. Perfect time for him.
Yep.
That was just and there was another Abu Dhabi when he Yeah, there was another Abu Dhabi when he got a puncture and spun off, but then I was thinking, this is going to be amazing, he has to fight through the field, and then no, his car was too damaged to continue. I was like, oh, for God's sake. We've never really seen Vettel under consistent pressure, you know. For example, put Vettel in you know, equivalent to a McLaren last year, as I said.
Exactly.
We will learn a lot more about him, and to be fair to him, if he still wins races and still, you know, does a solid job, then I will very much respect him. But for now, for me, I mean, my not hate for Vettel, but my disliking for Vettel is well documented if you watch any of my videos or see any of my tweets. But yeah, for me, he's just not up there with the best. He's just, I don't know. There's just, for me, there's still something missing. He can lead out the front. He's a very good driver. He can qualify very well. He has got the raw speed. But I mean, was it beginning of last year? I think it was Malaysia when he hit. No, I think it was the year before, because I think it was HRT. He hit Nareen Karthikeyan, whatever it is. I think it was beginning of 2012. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he got a puncture, and he was like, "Oh, Karthikeyan, what's he doing?" It's like, yeah, but
right.
You shouldn't.
He wasn't a
regardless of what the
backmarker,
HRT's doing. Yeah, regardless of what he's doing, you shouldn't be anywhere near him. You shouldn't be hitting him.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you could have avoided that.
Yeah.
So could Karthikeyan, but you could have avoided that. And that sort of thing, you know, he's grown since then as well. Don't get me wrong, he's better than what he was then. But that sort of thing for me is what's kind of just missing. He's just not quite got that. I don't know. It's really hard to describe, but I think he needs a season in a bad car. A, to learn, and B, to prove to everyone really how good he is.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that most pundits and things people think he's the best driver ever, and he doesn't need to do that, but I think realistically he does.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for him, and I don't know if he realizes that or not, but if he's in a situation where he's not in the fastest car, then he has a good opportunity to prove himself and to, you know, show himself as a mature legend of a driver that he's supposed to be after winning four championships in a row.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the beginning of last year when Red Bull weren't the quickest car for once. He wasn't shining. He wasn't like, oh my God, Vettel's this amazing driver. He was probably better than Webber, but, you know, Webber was definitely at the foot of his career. So, but he wasn't like, you know, I think he still won a race or two, but he wasn't shining like, you know, like he does when he's out front. He just didn't have that shine. So he isn't as good as he's being perceived when he's just constantly winning with the fastest car. He isn't that good, you know, because that, you know, if you just based it on that, you know, he'd be the best driver of all time by quite some margin. But I don't think anyone would say he's the best driver of all time yet.
No,
not quite.
No.
But unfortunately, I think he's this also, judging on the way he's treated his personal life, I think there's rumours that he's had a baby girl, which he's mentioned nothing about, which is a little bit weird.
That is weird.
I don't think he should make a song and a dance about it. But say like Roman Grosjean, you know, just mention, you know, I got married last weekend. That's helped my, you know, thing. He doesn't have to, you know, bring his wife. But this is my wife, you know, and introduce her. I don't have to do that. Just mention it in passing, you know, because it is a big thing in his life. So why? It's just weird. For me, I don't like what he does with personal life, but because of that, I can see him having, you know, another couple of years at Red Bull and then just retiring. Say getting 5 World Championships, seeing Red Bull go downhill a bit and be like, no, that's it for me, I'm done.
I'm done. Yep.
And then we never see him again.
Totally.
I can really see him doing that, which would be a huge shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it'll really annoy me because all the Vettel fans will be like, oh, he's the best driver ever. And I'll be like, no, he never proved himself. And that'll really, really annoy me if he does that. But
you'll be defending your position for the rest of your life if that happens.
Oh my God, it'll do my head in.
You and Onage will just end up in the same old folks' home in the year 21 whatever and just yelling at each other.
What about the car then? When I think about Adrian Newey, I can't help but think about all those cars in pre-2000 or actually the early 2000s when they were really unreliable, especially in 2004, where unfortunately Kimi was the
victim,
the victim of those.
Yeah, I remember that,
those breakdowns. So what I think, of course, he's started with like a really aggressive package at the rear, at least.
For me, he always does that. It's not like it's the Newey of old. He's always done that. You know, when they first introduced KERS, their KERS was horribly unreliable because he packaged it too tight and it kept overheating. He's always done it. You know, the only reason it has happened before is because we haven't had to change the engines in many years, and they knew exactly how to package that, and the cooling requirements, you know, were going less and less with the engines. But for me, he's always done that. He's always been about bare minimum for cooling, you know, for the negative factors of the car, to big up the kind of positive factors. And for me, I heard it's a lot about, you know, everything's overheating and actually burning the bodywork, which is where the smoke's coming from. You've seen the car smoking a few times. particularly the turbo. I think I think if you look at the bodywork, I don't actually see it on the picture. I recall reading. If you look at the bodywork, you can actually see where they've had to mould the bodywork around the turbo. It's that tight, so there is no room. And like I said, the turbo runs 800 degrees. It runs ridiculously hot, and it's just obviously not worked out. And I think also the two ERS motors, I can't remember what they're called, MGU I think they're called. The two MGUs I think also rumored to be overheating. So it's not just like it's just the turbo that's overheating. It's like it's just not gone well. And I think he's packaged it interestingly as well, because I remember reading that the KERS battery was near the gearbox in the previous car to keep it all separate, but now it's mandated that the battery, the power store, I think is the official term.
It has to be in a single place rather than split up.
Under the fuel cell, isn't it? Under the fuel tank.
Yeah.
Which obviously is partly messed up his original design, because most teams already had it there. He's had to change that, but I think he's put the MGUs in a weird place. And there was on the 4th day there was some cutouts in the Coke bottle shape. There was some cutouts in the bottom of the Coke bottle shape, some quite bodged big cutouts. Yeah. Which is rumored that's where the MGUs are, either side there, one on either side. Or something like that, which because that's where the holes are. So yeah, I think he's again just packaged it too tight, and he's all about performance, isn't he? And
I think that's how he works too. Like he would rather build something that's too aggressive and then cool it down.
Did we just lose him?
I don't know. It just went quiet. I was thinking, is it me that's dropped?
Nope. That was my headset.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, he seems to go too far forward and then work his way back. It seems to be how his stuff works.
Yeah, but for me this year, that it should have been the other way around this year, because like I said, I don't expect him to be unreliable when the season starts. But not only the fact that they can't develop performance for the next couple of weeks, they're gonna have to work on reliability. But the fact that they're going to have to compromise performance, they're going to have to make the bodywork probably a bit bigger. They might have to make the side pods a bit bigger, side pod inlets. All that is going to completely change the aerodynamic philosophy, well, not the philosophy, but the aerodynamic details of the car. Yeah. The diffuser is going to get perhaps less air, or the air will be traveling in a different direction, or won't quite stick to the surfaces that he liked. And don't go wrong, he'll fix all that sort of thing. But it actually puts him back a step, the fact he's got to change all this.
And also he's kind of relying on Renault. He's got to rely on Renault as well to make improvements, because they're having their own problems separate to Red Bull's problems.
Yeah, absolutely, but I think the Renault problems are common to pretty much every car, so I think the Renault will get those sorted without too many issues. But yes, it's definitely not ideal to not have that either. But the main issues for Red Bull are definitely their packaging, which has historically been tight on Adrian Newey's cars.
I have to say, I think Ferrari and Mercedes have gone for a really different approach, coming from the reliability and then just building up the speed.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the well, I can't say at this point that that's the winning formula, but that seems the way that's the way to go.
I gotta imagine.
Yeah, because a couple of 4th places are probably better than perhaps a second and a DNF. Mm-hmm. Or a couple of 5th places is probably better. So it's I think initially that's the right approach, and then work make the cooling a little bit tighter and work your packaging up from there, which I think is absolutely where McLaren have come from, particularly there, because they've got particularly big side pods, the exact same engines as Mercedes, obviously, who've got relatively small side pods. So I think McLaren have got kind of the customer team approach of starting reliable and then going to work your way down from there. I think Mercedes and Ferrari have kind of started somewhere in between, because they're manufacturer teams, and they know exactly the cooling requirements, and they can really drill down into it and get a lot tighter to what the requirements are, purely because they know exactly what the engines require, and they've been obviously involved with the development of the engine as it's been going along.
Yeah. One more point about the car, of course, the nose. I always think about like a really big cargo ship keel on the front. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kind of resembles that. Actually, it has like a small inlet inside it. It's not entirely blocked from the front. You can see it in some close-ups.
Yeah, I think they said it's for driver cooling, as I think it was in the step, wasn't there? When there was a step nose, was it in 2012? But I think I heard that's for, I think on Ted Kravitz again. I think that's to more reduce the pressure, high pressure that built up in front of the wing with the air hitting it than anything else. So it's not a case of like the air's going somewhere like that or a special thing. It's just literally just to stop the pressure building up there.
Yeah, and they have the S duct, the the scoop going under the nose and then coming through the nose cone on top of the cockpit that should clean the air. And that
yeah, I haven't seen that on any other teams. I don't know. They probably one or two others that are running that, I'd imagine. But it's interesting how they've stuck with that, and the other teams have seemingly not. At least I don't think I've seen it on the Ferrari or the Mercedes.
Sauber had it in 2012, but not in 2013, I think.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's obviously not a big thing. It's obviously not something that really affects it. It just, like you said, just literally tidies up the air for a little bit. It doesn't actually make a huge difference. But I guess that depends on your front wing philosophy as well. You know, if you've got dirty air coming off your front wing, then you might need that. But if you've got relatively clean air coming off your front wing, then you might not need it, I guess. So it depends on the philosophy of the rest of the car.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I think that's going to do it for the first ever three-way box cast for all the ladies out there.
Three-way.
Oh, it was, yeah. You guys did it with the Yorkie, you guys.
Right, yeah, I did.
Then, yeah.
Did the one with Yorkie, but that was without Miko. So, but yeah, I think that went pretty well. I mean, that was pretty extensive. I think we pretty much covered just about everything. Personally, I'm really looking forward to the Bahrain tests. It's going to be a new venue for the preseason tests. So the temperatures and conditions are going to be a lot different. The track type is very different, much more similar to a modern F1 circuit. So we'll definitely be doing another one. I don't know if Alex is going to join us or not for the next one, but we're definitely going to
have to discuss that. Just quickly touch on the Bahrain test quickly as well. I think the main thing that will be key about Red Bull, I think that's the big one to watch. If they are still unreliable there, they won't be as unreliable, don't get me wrong, but if they are still even, averagely unreliable, then they will start to be in trouble.
Yeah.
If by that point they haven't fixed it, then yeah, they are starting to get in trouble. But I expect most of the issues will be fixed by then.
Yeah, they'll definitely do more than 21 laps, I would assume.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Lotus as well, of course, their new car, that'd be interesting.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's right. We'll be able to see the Lotus for the first time. Hopefully Renault has all their issues sorted out by then. But yeah, we're going to be doing another box cast for that one, so maybe not necessarily next week, but certainly in the coming weeks, be on the lookout for that. Thanks always, Miko, for joining me.
Thank you.
And Alex, thanks for joining as well.
Yeah, thanks for watching again. It's been good to speak to you guys again.
Absolutely. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.